by the very nature of being the kind of person who's principled enough to risk his own personal situation in life, if you have principles that strong, you're going to be disliked by some people. You're never going to have a person who is principled enough to take risk to his public detriment for the good of what he believes in, who's liked by everybody. That's a logic fail, right? Because he has principles which are hard lines, and people exist across the entire spectrum. So there's going to be people who exist outside of those lines. That's what I liked about Trump. He's not perfect, of course not, but he says what he means what he says. I actually disagree with him on many things. But he says what he means what he says, and that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of a man who says what he means and means what he says, because he can't be bought, because he's principled. He can't be bought. Even now, if they were to come to me with $100 million and say, we'll sponsor you with this company, it's $100 million, you just have to shut up, I'd say, no, I don't want your money. I don't want the money. I don't need money. There's nothing else to buy. I bought everything. I don't need it. My principle's worth more. So, and that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid of principles, and it goes back to the original point. They're trying to remove all of our morality, all of our baseline understanding of things. That's how they inject you with the slave mind. That's exactly what it is, and you're right. History has always been that way, and now it's under conscious assault. I've never said this before, I've never even thought this before, this is a brand new thought for me. But I would like to think in times of old, in history, perhaps everybody was the same. Everybody was principled, everybody had parameters, but they were different parameters. Perhaps they were competing ideas. But I think in the modern world, it's not so much competing parameters, it's just people who believe in things, and people who don't believe in anything besides what they're fucking told. It changes every day. You have the empty brains, the slave minds, and the people who actually stand up for something. And the free thinkers. But the slave minds, you can't say, well, they believe in a different ideology, because they don't. They believe in what they're told to believe in on that particular day. It changes. They don't have any true core belief. They just repeat. And this is why we don't have competing sets of parameters which are trying to argue about which is the best way to run the world. We have people with parameters who believe in family and love and God and tradition and taking care of yourself and taking care of others. There's people with moral standard, and there's people with none. Zero. Empty vessels, agents who are programmed on any given day of what they're supposed to care about. These people can't tell me they care about things. That's what's most annoying about my position, because it's absolutely and utterly weaponized virtue they use against me. The people who hate me because, one, I truly believe, and I know this is arrogant to say, but I feel like I have to say it. There's definitely a massive jealousy implement. If I wasn't so tall and rich and good looking, it wouldn't be happening. They don't fucking like me. They don't like me because I remind them of the jock at school that took their girl. That's part of it, right? They don't like me personally. So it's true. So they try and find an attack vector. And what happens when you have somebody who's monumentally successful across all realms of human endeavor? The only way you can attack them is by calling them a bad person. They can't call me stupid. They can't call me ugly. Can't call me broke. Can't call me weak. They can't call me any of these things. So how do we attack this guy? Well, he's a bad person. How do you call someone a bad person? You weaponize virtue. None of the people, who are pretending to give a shit about women and that I'm bad to protect women, have any interest in protecting them. None of these people think I better become physically strong to protect women. None of them even believe in protecting a woman in a physical scenario. None of them even believe in protecting their family. None of them donate to any charities that involve women, nothing. They're just taking the virtue and weaponizing it and attacking me with it. Me as a person who donates $25 million a year to charity to feed both male and female children. Me as a person who believes I have a responsibility to be physically capable so that any woman I'm walking down the street with is safe. I do more for women than any of these clowns would ever do. But they're just weaponizing virtue and attacking me with it. It's not even genuine virtue. That's what's so upsetting about it. These people, the matrix-minded people, have so few parameters and so few virtue. Whenever there's virtue inside of them, it's only so they can take it, weaponize it, and fire it at you. They don't give a shit about any of the issues they talk about. They don't care about race, they don't care about women, they don't care about gays, none of it. They take it, they put it in a bullet, and they shoot it at the people they don't like. It's all fake. All of it. Newton's, I think it's third law, equal and opposite force, what you just said there is absolutely true. There has to be equal and opposite force to all the evil in the world. And the equal and opposite force to all that evil has to be God. And I've talked about this at length even with atheists, and I try and say that regardless of whether you're an atheist or not, you're thinking of God as a man in the sky, but you need to think of God as a concept as a whole. And once you do that, it's impossible to accept that he doesn't exist, right? I said to the atheists, I said, let's say there was 2 islands. You're shipwrecked, right? And there's 2 islands. Both of them are full of savages. On one island, you and your friend are shipwrecked. On one island, your friend goes and he crashes and they kill him and they eat him. and you go to another island and they want to kill you and eat you, but they don't because it's against their religion. Did God save your life? Who cares? Who doesn't even know the name of their God? But their God said, don't kill shipwrecked survivors. And now you're alive. So their God saved your life. The concept of God in and of itself saved your life. You owe God just for the concept of it, the idea of it. So even the idea of opposing evil as a whole is a belief in God. So you're either an evil person or you believe in God in some regard. And then once I understood that there had to be an equal and opposite force, I was raised Christian. I live in a Christian nation. Romania is actually, I think, the second or third most Christian country on earth. It's a very Christian country here. It's churches everywhere. They strongly believe. And that's where I began my journey. But I always had a very healthy respect for Islam because I understand that to a degree, to have a religion at all, you have to have an intolerance to a degree. Because without an intolerance, you don't have rules. You don't have laws. You don't have any, like you said, you have to earn God's respect. If you're a religion which is tolerant of everything, then you don't have to earn God's respect. You can be a bad person and do bad things. God loves me, so it's fine. Well, no, it's not, because that's not the point of the religion. So then you extrapolate that out, and I was sitting and thinking, well, what's the primary function of a religion? And the primary function of a religion, I don't believe is the religion exists so I can live forever. I mean, that's a nice thought. But I think on a macro level, the primary objective of a religion is to restore and contain some degree of traditional value within the society. How do you judge, let me change the way I worded that. How do you judge the success of a religion? I don't think you can judge it by the number of people who join it, because there's lots of people who are Catholic who don't act Catholic. They don't act in any way particularly Christian. Anyone can say they're something. You can walk into a strip club and everyone says they're Christian. It doesn't mean anything, right? So how do you judge the success of a religion? Well, I like to think the best way to judge the success of a religion is how successful is it at fighting evil? How successful is it at preserving the morality of a population in X parameter, in X geographical area? So when you look at it from that way, you can't say that Islam isn't the most successful religion on earth. It's the most successful in regards to opposing evil. It's the most successful in regards to opposing its differing viewpoints. It's the most successful in regards to having people act within the limits and the confines of what it finds to be moral and good to God. It's the most adhered to. It's the most feared. It's the most respected in most forms. And then also I'd like to think...
I would say it's the most feared.
Yeah, it's the most feared. But what is respect without fear? Do we respect men we don't fear? If there's a man who could do absolutely nothing to you on any level at all, you might be nice to him, sure, because we're not bad people. But would you really respect him? If you could take his chick in front of his face, set his car on fire, you wouldn't do it to him. You wouldn't respect him. You might be nice to him because we're not bullies. You wouldn't respect him. Respect and fear are linked. They're not always the same thing, and you can maybe have fear without respect, but it's very hard to have respect without fear. And also, I heard someone say once that we see the world as we see ourselves. If you're a thief, you think everyone's a thief. If you're a liar, you think everyone's a liar. And I kind of agree with that. I understood that. I also like to think we see religion as we see ourselves. I like to see myself as a person whose respect you have to earn. I like to see myself as a person who has strong, rigid boundaries. I like to see myself as a person who will stand up and say, no, that's wrong. I like to see myself as a person who's not afraid of being shamed by whatever community for saying, I don't agree with that particular idea. I like seeing myself that way. So if I'm going to see myself that way, then I'm going to naturally align with a religion that operates within that form. So when I say Islam is the last religion on earth, I say it because it seems to be the only one who will stand up and say, no, we don't care. No, that's not what the book says. No. I was raised Christian, and Muslims as a whole, we have no problems with Christians. None at all. I don't want anyone to think I'm anti-Christian, like I dislike Christians. We don't have a problem with Christians. We believe in a lot of the same things. We believe in Jesus. We put more respect on the name of Jesus than most Christians do. I just don't like the idea of people saying they're a Christian and saying, but because I'm a Christian, I can do whatever I want and throw all the rules away and none of it matters. Because once you have that level of tolerance, you no longer have a religion. Islam seems to be the last religion left with parameters. We don't have parameters. You don't have a religion at all. So the closer I found myself to God, the closer I found myself to Islam. That's just how it ended.
And Andrew, speaking of fear, one could argue that Islam these days, certainly in the last 20 years with the war on terror, they've also been the most vilified.
Absolutely.
Right? So, you know, everything that we've seen happen with extremism and everything that's going on all over the world, how are you grappling with that? You've been a Christian for years now, Islam, everything.
And you know what, that's such an interesting question, because when I was younger, especially when I was an atheist, I would sit and think, people are really doing terror attacks and doing all this crazy stuff because, they're upset over a cartoon. That's so stupid. And nobody should kill anybody. Nobody should kill anybody.
Charlie Hebdo.
Nobody should kill anybody. Nobody should kill anybody. I make that very clear. But also part of me is now saying, why would you want to insult the prophet for billions of people? Why would you want? I don't want to make the argument against free speech. I'm not even saying you couldn't be allowed to. This is a sensitive subject. I'm just saying, what kind of person wakes up and thinks, I want? I don't know. I just don't think that's a healthy mindset. Like when I see these Satanists, and they're, especially in America, and they're doing, let's keep it on Christianity, these Satanists, and they're dressing up Jesus as gay and all this stuff, like, that's not done in any kind of good faith. There's no good reason to do that. That's done with genuinely malicious intention. And what kind of people want to do that? And then the answer by extension is, I thought America was a Christian country. So how can you have a Christian country where the prophets of the religion are mocked to the highest possible levels within the confines of the country and it's promoted? Is that a Christian country? Doesn't seem like a Christian country to me. I don't think the same thing would happen with Islam in Saudi Arabia. I can't imagine that. So how can you say we're a Christian country, but everyone's mocking our God on the streets? Ha ha ha. It's on Netflix. Ha ha ha. That's not a Christian country to me. So if you're not a Christian country, then where's the religion? The religion's supposed to enforce certain boundaries. You're supposed to at least show it respect, And it's also kind of interesting because in Christian countries, there's more respect for Islam than there is for Christianity. In a Christian country, name one. They still don't do it with the Islamic prophet.
Why do you think that is?
It's too much smoke. It's just not worth the heat. Because people believe. And I'm not advocating for violence on any level. I'm saying that even these degenerates who are trying to destroy people's belief in God, like we've discussed earlier, because they don't want you to have any baseline morality. If you believe in God, there are commandments, yes and no. That baseline morality prevents you being an absolute slave, so they're trying to destroy it. But even those degenerates who are trying to mock and disgrace God, understand there's a point where it just backfires and ooh, this is smoke. And they don't want the smoke. And shouldn't God be feared? I'm scared of God. It's the only thing I fear. I fear God. He can put me in jail. I know I'm telling the truth. God's on my side. I fear God. So God should be feared. So once again, does anybody fear the Christian God? I haven't seen anybody scared of him in a long time. And it's kind of crazy because it's very interesting. The mass migration, all these things are leftist policies, but then also Islam is the most right-wing religion on earth. It's kind of very interesting. I grew up in England, and I grew up in Luton, which is a town which is mainly Muslims. It's a huge Islamic community. And there was a bunch of English people who were complaining about there's too much immigration, we're losing our culture, and I understood their point absolutely. But these are the same people complaining about all the left-wing LGBT in schools and all these issues. And they're the only allies you have against this are the Muslims. They're the only allies you have in any of this. The Christians don't protest against any of this stuff. There's very few Christians who will get up off their ass and complain. In fact, I saw on Twitter yesterday, one of the churches was lit up in rainbow. I have nothing against gay people, I don't care. And that's actually another point I'm making to you about this thing. I think most people don't care, and I think that bothers them. Have you ever had an argument with a girl? And she's like stropping around the house, she's huffing and puffing, and you just don't give a shit. So she has to keep upping the ante until you eventually go, what's the problem? Because she tried the low-level stuff and you didn't care. I kind of feel like this has a remnants of that. I'm gay, cool. I want to get married. I want to wave my dick in your kid's face. Whoa, 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 whoa. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. I feel like they tried to annoy us, and we're like, we don't give a shit. Do whatever you want. Be a person. We don't care. And now they're like, okay, well, we have to get to a limit where they have to react. Yeah. We want attention now. We want them to care about
What's the right move on that?
Well, that's the point. It's difficult because there comes a point where you simply have to address it, and now you have to oppose it. And this is sorry to interrupt you, but this is why they're so careful and so clever with what they do. They package it all together. LGBTQ. I would argue. I don't know what Q is. First, sorry, I don't know what Q is.
Question.
Q. All right. I would argue that G and T are very different things.
Beyond.
A gay man and someone who's chopped the dick off are very different things. Completely. So they package it all together. So now, because the spectrum of your enemy is so large, you have people who are fully this way. Mm-hmm. You have people who we accept and are normal in society. We have no problem with gay people. And they put it all together. You're an enemy of all these people. And they complicate the argument and they mix it all together. And now you're a bigot. And really, you just want your kids to be left alone. Really, you just want to leave the children alone.
Of course.
So all you want to do is leave your kids alone. And then it's like, okay, I'm now raising children. I have more children than most people would believe. How do I protect my children from this insanity? God. Which God can protect my children? Allah, Islam. I'll move them to Dubai or Saudi Arabia, and none of this will happen. Can I trust a Christian nation? Some of them. Romania is a Christian nation, and to a large degree, they oppose quite a lot of this stuff. But they're also NATO, and they're also EU, and they also rely on bailouts and grants and money. And on a long enough time frame, even in the 7 years I've lived here, I have watched certain attitudes change because money buys influence and power.
So Andrew, not to cut you off, how much of you converting from Christianity to Islam is actually the belief in God versus the societal pressures that are facing children? Because it seems like it's a little bit of both.
For you to believe in God, you have to respect Him. How can I believe and put my life in the hands of someone I don't respect? And I'm going to respect a God which is feared.
JC has that one line where he says, "Don't tell me why what the guy said about me. Tell me why he was so comfortable saying it to you."
100%.